Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely massive. We're looking at how the biggest sporting event on the planet is fundamentally and radically changing its math.
104. Just let that number sink in for a second. The 2026 tournament is going to feature an unprecedented 104 matches. I mean, that is a massive scale up. We're jumping way, way up from these 64 games we've all grown so used to over the years.
But, this massive expansion really forces us to ask a pretty tough question. Does a bigger tournament actually mean better football? We really have to ask ourselves, as things expand to include way more teams and a ton more games, are we inadvertently sacrificing competitiveness? Are we messing with the fundamental integrity of the sport? So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the evolution of the Cub, the 2026 expansion, the hidden danger of stakeless matches, a really fascinating imbalanced group solution, and finally, how we can get fewer matches with much higher stakes. Let's get into it. Section 1. The evolution of the Cup, adapting to grow the global game. If we take a quick trip back in time, we see that structural change is completely normal. In fact, it's necessary as the global game develops. The inaugural tournament back in 1930, it had just 13 teams. Then, by 1954, we bump up to 16 teams and introduce group stages. It expanded to 24 teams in 1982, and then to 32 teams in 1998, which really kicked off the modern era that we know and love today. And now, 2026 ushers in this brand new, highly inclusive era with 48 teams. Moving right along to Section 2, the 2026 expansion, the biggest tournament in history. Okay, so this is going to be the very first time we see 48 competing nations, and it's being hosted across Canada, Mexico, and the USA. The setup is 12 groups of 4 teams each. Now, naturally, the top 2 teams from each group advance. But here is the major twist. The 8 best third-place teams also advance. That introduces a completely brand new round of 32. So what's the crucial takeaway here? Well, with a whopping 2/3 of all teams advancing, qualification suddenly becomes incredibly easy for the stronger nations. It's almost a guaranteed lock. Which brings us to Section 3, the danger of stakeless matches, when winning simply doesn't matter. This concept right here is basically the villain of our explainer. A stakeless match is simply a game where at least one team is totally indifferent to the outcome. Why? Well, because they've already secured qualification, or on the flip side, they've already been mathematically eliminated. Think about that for a second. If a team has absolutely no incentive to give full effort on the pitch, fairness goes completely out the window for everyone else in that group. And we literally saw this exact scenario play out in 2022. Researchers pointed out a glaring example with the French national team. Didier Deschamps, the French coach, knew his team had already qualified. So what did he do? He made 9 changes compared to the previous match. 9. The researchers noted that the second squad performed as if they had never even played together before. They ended up losing to Tunisia, which created a completely skewed match dynamic that frankly impacted the entire tournament. The math behind that specific match is actually staggering. Going into it, France had an 88.35% win expectancy based on their global rating. But because they were essentially indifferent, they just didn't play honestly to that level. Here's the kicker. The stronger the indifferent team is, the more disruptive that stakeless match becomes to the entire competition. Their low-effort loss dramatically alters who gets to advance and who gets sent home. So how do we fix this? That brings us to Section 4, the imbalanced group solution, a data-driven academic proposal. Let's actually compare these structures. The official 2026 format gives us 12 equal groups of 4, where the top 2, plus those 8 best third-place teams, move on to a round of 32. But researchers have proposed something radically different, an imbalanced format. This would mean 8 Tier 1 groups packed with the stronger teams, and 4 Tier 2 groups for the weaker teams. Then an intermediate playoff replaces that entire round of 32. So instead of equal groups where top teams basically sleepwalk into qualification, this creates deliberate tiers. It literally forces high-level, high-stakes competition right out of the gate. Okay, let's walk through how this tiered system actually plays out. Step 1. Only the Tier 1 group winners advance directly to the round of 16. Step 2. The Tier 1 runners-up are forced to face the Tier 2 winners or runners-up in a gritty playoff round. Step 3. Those playoff winners finally advance to join the Tier 1 winners.
By ripping away that safety net of third-place qualification, top teams absolutely must fight tooth and nail to win their Tier 1 groups. Because if you settle for second place, you're staring down an exhausting extra game. By mapping the 48 teams into these specific tiers based on their objective ELO ratings, this mathematical model structurally prevents top-tier teams from taking a day off against low-tier opponents. There's no cruising. Every single team is seriously challenged from match day 1. Let's look at the payoff in Section 5. Fewer matches, higher stakes. The mathematical benefits of the imbalanced design. These metrics summarize some pretty profound benefits. We go from 12 equal groups to that 8 and 4 tiered system. Total knockout games drop from 32 down to 24. And look at the risk of stakeless games. In the official format, it sits at an incredibly dangerous 28 to 60% for the top 16 teams. But in the proposed format, it's substantially reduced. Plus, top player workload drops by 8 to 9%. So, it's not just about fairer matches. It's about actively protecting the athletes from sheer exhaustion. It's super clear when you look at the data, the expected number of matches is noticeably reduced for the top teams. The strongest players in the world, the ones who already carry the absolute highest club workloads all year long, actually experience an 8 to 9% reduction in total matches. That directly translates to lower injury risks. It's a huge win for player welfare. Furthermore, the math proves that these imbalanced groups actually increase the uncertainty of the group stage. You get way more competitive pairings. Why? Well, because you have heavyweights battling heavyweights in Tier 1, while emerging nations are competing fiercely against each other in Tier 2 without facing guaranteed morale-crushing blowouts. The result is just incredibly exciting, edge-of-your-seat games across the board. And that intense competition, it extends right into the knockout stages. By pairing stronger teams more efficiently and filtering them through this tiered playoff system, we get much tighter, much more thrilling matchups in the quarterfinals and semifinals. It just makes the back half of the tournament so much better. Ultimately, if you remember one thing today, it should be this. The imbalanced format reduces the probability of a stakeless game by at least 17 percentage points for the 16 strongest teams. It completely neutralizes the threat of top teams just resting their star players after 2 matches. It ensures that every single minute on that pitch actually matters. So as the sport enters this massive new era, we're left with a choice. What matters more? Do you prefer the comforting tradition of how we've always done things with equal groups? Or do we embrace the fairness of a data-driven tournament design to ensure the absolute best football possible? It is a fascinating mathematical dilemma for the future of the global game. Thanks for learning with me today on this explainer. Keep analyzing, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.